Hello, I'm Ben. Welcome to the channel. So the next video here we're going to do on the SKS, which stands for, it's a very difficult word, Samozaryadny carbine Simonova, which I probably just slaughtered that, but basically it's the Simonov self-loading carbine. So it's a semi-automatic rifle designed by Soviet small arms designer Sergei Simonov in the late 1940s. So the thing about the SKS is kind of like the M14 for us. It had a shorter life, but what's funny about that is people still use SKSs in police forces and military forces still to this day. Our soldiers have faced off against SKSs in the last 24 years in war, and they're a very effective weapon. So what I'm going to show you today is some rare ones. We're talking about specifically the paratrooper model, and even more rare type M, and that M type takes AK magazines. So all SKSs do not take AK magazines. It's a specifically different mag release and setup, which will show you that. And then the paratrooper model is one of the rare forms. It's a shorter model than what the standard model was. So if we look at this, it shoots the exact same round as an AK-47, which is 7.62 by 39, and it came typically fit with a 10-round magazine. So here's an example. Here's a sample of a 20-round magazine, right? And it goes in the rifle like that, and you can open it up, and it'll open like that, so you can dump the magazine if you need to empty it quickly. And you can use stripper clips to load from the top of the weapon as well when you're loading from the top. So here's the first example, and this is what an SKS magazine looks like. This right here is a duck bill, okay? That's what a lot of people call that. I don't have right now a magazine where I can get to it to show you what a removable magazine would look like, but it basically, this is the top of it, and the rest of it looks like that. So it basically would look like something like this. It would look like that, basically. That would be the top of it. The mag would be like that below it. I just don't have a copy right now, and currently I can't dig through things to find one, guys. I've had a surgery in just the last week, so I got to kind of take it easy and stay put. So the first example, this is one of my favorite guns. This is a SKS paratrooper model. Okay, so this is a Chinese, so it's made by Norinco. And if you see at the front, it's got a cleaning rod, it's got a spike bayonet. You'll see that it's got the same standard. That front end, if you were to cut this off, this front end looks very similar from here forward. Looks very similar to a lot of AKs because the AK was similar in construction and during the time period. The bolt head there, it's very telling. When you see that, you know you're talking about an SKS. You know you're looking at SKS. For that bolt carrier group there, and then you have that square back, so that's how you know it's an SKS, guys. And typically they have a cleaning kit here in the butt, just like an AK-47, which this one does. This is a complete Norinco SKS. These weapons were made throughout the late 40s and the 50s, and were issued in China and in North Korea and in all of those bloc countries. This is one of my favorite models. I've got, I think, 4 of this size paratrooper, but this is, I think, one of my favorite ones. You can see that the top is a little darker than the bottom. That's because this gun was shot a lot and that's been cooked some. So you can see that this has been used. This has been a used weapon that has been brought in to the United States, and it's got a shipping mark. So that's how you know they were brought in. There's numbers and letters that are cut into the metal surface there, and it'll tell you where it came from, etc. So this is Norinco. This is a Chinese model, and it has the fixed 10-round magazine. So I showed you that 20-round magazine a while ago. It would go in that same space as that 10-round magazine. You'd have to take that out. You have to take the gun apart to take these fixed magazines out. But if you take the fixed magazines out, all SKSs can take the replaceable mags, but you have to have that duck bill to hook in up here to do it appropriately. So an AK mag would not work in this gun. Okay, so that's an SKS paratrooper model, and it is complete. Beautiful weapon, wonderful gun. talking about the 7.62 by 39. If you're in the States, to give you an idea, sorry to have my back to the camera there. If you're in the States, to give you an idea of pressures, 7.62 by 39 out of these type barrels would hit just as hard as a 30-30. So if you're hunting deer or game that size, then this would be a good gun to use. Back in the 80s, when 7.62 was becoming more popular in the States, these guns were very popular because they're very cheap. I think back in the 80s, you can get them for $69.99 from your local store, and then the stores could buy them. You had to buy the case, but you could get them for $49 a case, $49 a piece inside of a case. So basically, 10 weapons. Some cases were 10, some were 20. 10 weapons would cost you $490. You get it less than $500, and typically they send a case of ammo with that. So here is the more rarer version. This is an SKS, same thing, Norinco SKS. So if you look at the front and the top of this rifle, it's very much the same as what we just looked at. As a matter of fact, a lot of people take these stocks off and put the other stocks on them. So this is an SKS Type M. This takes AK-47 mags, okay? So you can see the bottom of it is much different. And you see that big old mag release. That looks just like an AK-47, okay? So that's a mag release for an AK-47 and this style M. This is an AK magazine. If you look, it's very simple. You put it in and rock it back. I say it's very simple and I missed the hook. And that's an AK magazine inside of an SKS. So that is the style M. It's the more rare. It's one of the more rare models. This basically was done to kind of give some additional use to these guns, because a lot of areas they didn't like the fact that it had a magazine that only had 10 rounds in it. But even though that came with, you could use detachable magazines for the standard SKS, those magazines weren't as reliable and didn't fit in as quick as this did. It takes a little bit of time to get that magazine in. This would be as fast as it would be to reload an M4 or something like that. So that's your SKS style M. And of course, this will tell you the date that this was brought into this country. This was during the 90s when, for some reason in the 90s, they lost their mind a little bit in the States and started thinking that the Second Amendment had something to do with hunting. So here's the point. The Constitution of the United States allows us to have these guns. Canadians can have these guns too. So up in Canada, they'll have these. They'll have the SVT, which is a much more powerful model, so 7.62 by 5.4R. SVT 38s and 40s. I've got a SVT 40. It's a fantastic weapon. But these were what was used by Russia and the communist countries when we were using the Garand, right, and the M14 and then the M4. So we talk about the SKS to tell you how many were produced. The designer was Sergei Simonov. It was designed between 1941 and 1944. It was produced from 1949 to 1958 in the Soviet Union, and it was produced from 1956 to 1980 in China. So you'll have some models that were as few as 1980 in China. Numbers built, the estimates are between 5 million and 15 million of these were made. And when you look at this and click on see variants, it'll bring up different types. SKS M1950 was a fully automatic version. SKS M1951 was detachable bayonet and detachable box magazine. That was a prototype only. SKS M1953 was an SKS with select fire capacity and capabilities with a new muzzle brake, detachable bayonet, and detachable box magazine. So the Type 56, which is what we just looked at there, was the most common model from 1956 to 1980s. This is what the Chinese were making. Okay, so that's the most common model. These were full length, so about 2 inches to 3 inches longer than the one that I just showed you. The paratrooper is a little bit shorter than the full length model. And if you look at the Norinco Model M, which is the one that I just showed you with the thumb hole, it takes the detachable AK mag, that was the last model to be really put into to use. So that's the Type 56 Model 84 M for magazine, and it took the AK-47 Type 56 assault rifle mag. Two are theoretically interchangeable. However, standard Kalashnikov magazines needed modification to fit the Model 84. So Type 56 Model D was the variant that could accept standard Kalashnikov magazines produced overseas for commercial use and commercial sales. Type 56 Model M derivative of Model D, with the bayonet lug removed and fitted with a new stock to comply with U.S. import laws. So that's why that is the Model M. The Model D was the one that was sent overseas. The stock looked just like the other SKS. The Model M was the one that came to the States. And once again, that thumb hole was telltale of the sign when the government thought that it needed to look more like a sporting rifle than a actual weapon of war, as they say. So other European countries that used it, Romania, Polish countries used it, Yugoslavia used it, Albania, East German, Carabina S, North Korea, and Vietnamese, all of which used them. So more than 70 conflicts these rifles have been used in. And I'll go through that real quick because you can see it's kind of been all over the world. Algerian War, Bangladeshi Liberation War, Suez Crisis, Simba Rebellion, the Vietnam War, Hungarian Revolution of 1956, Portuguese Colonial War, Rhodesian Bush War, South African Border War, the Troubles, the Six-Day War, the Sino-Soviet border conflict, the Ethiopian Civil War, the Angolan Civil War, the Lebanese Civil War, Shaba II, Shinto-Vietnamese War, Soviet-Afghani War, Tuareg Rebellion, Yugoslav Wars. And so the Tuareg Rebellion, for example, was from 1990 to 1995, and in 96, Yugoslav Wars was in 97. The War of Azbekania, I said that wrong, probably 92 to 93. Algerian War, Burundian Civil War, Republic Congo Civil War, and that was 97 to 99. 1999, East Timorese Crisis, the Iraqi War, the Kivu Conflict, the Northern Mali conflict, and the War of the Donbass, which was 2014 to 2022. So I tell you that it's been used, pretty much since they were started in the 40s up until today. SKSs are different weapons than AKs. Okay, AKs have newer components, newer technology. It's a little bit newer model. Obviously, AK-47, it came around and was produced after 1947. The AK is a better gun when you're talking about one for fighting wars, but this is a very capable gun, very capable weapon to use in wars. Also, they shoot the same round. So if you're shooting the full-size SKS, you're getting the best pressure, and that is a fine hunting gun. Okay, so if you have to buy a weapon to hunt, if you have to find a gun to hunt with, and you're in the States, an SKS is a fine weapon to hunt with. You get 10 rounds in that magazine. There's different scope mounts and everything else. I don't particularly like scope mounts on SKSs. I think they're just wonderful sights. I think it's a wonderful gun to shoot. It's just there's really no recoil at all, because the gun does have some heft to it because it's wood and steel. So that's very nice, and they work extremely well. You won't have them jam very often, if at all, and they're pretty easy to clean. So that there is one of my favorites. It's just an absolutely beautiful gun. I picked it up for a steal. I think I got it for less than $500 because I bought this probably in the last 4 years. But it's just a great example, great sample. I probably have 20 of these total, be said. I have probably 3 more of the paratroopers, one that's Russian, and then I have, I don't know, probably a dozen and a half of the full-length rifles, because they're just such great guns. And here's the point that I want to make. My 401k got hit pretty bad in the last decade of investing and paranoia, etc. My gun values there on those SKSs went from being around $160 a piece up to $600 and $700 each now, with that Type M going for maybe over $1,000 depending on where you're at. And that's Texas prices. Texas, sometimes guns are a little cheaper here than where they are elsewhere because we got a lot of guns in Texas. But there you go. One of my favorite platforms, the SKS. It doesn't matter if it's Russian or Chinese. They're made from the same models. The Russian, a lot of times you'll have the blade bayonet, where the Chinese has the spike bayonet. They shoot great. They eat the same ammo. So if you have a little money and you want a very nice rifle that's a heritage type item that you can pass down to your children and grandchildren, that's a fine weapon to pick if that's the case. Hope you liked this video and subject matter such as this. If you do, please like, please subscribe, and we'll see what else we can come up with. I'm Ben. Be good.